Liberty Nation with Tim Donner.
Democrats had won the trifecta, the Triple Crown, but now the best laid plans of mice and progressives appear to be headed to a not-so-distant ditch. What might this have to do with Donald Trump? Well, we know that no discussion of the 46th president would be complete without bringing the 45th president into it. And we're back to examine the Trump factor in the Biden presidency with our B&B panel from LibertyNation.com, Editor-in-Chief Lisa K. Donner, Managing Editor Mark Angelides, and Legal Affairs Editor and host of the Uprising podcast, Scott Cosenza. So, Scott, Biden famously vanquished Trump by essentially doing and saying nothing, being just not Donald Trump. Don't just do something, stand there. How long is that singular element, not Trump, likely to carry Joe Biden in his presidency?
It will last until the big box mainstream legacy media decides that it wants to turn its attention elsewhere. I think we've seen it flagging a little bit this week, as a matter of fact, with the announcement of Kamala Harris's issues. The White House seems to have thrown her under the bus, and the press seems to be interested in that story as a critical story about the Biden-Harris administration. I think that to the extent that Donald Trump signals that he's not going to re-enter to be a candidate for president, the press will be more likely to turn their guns, their sort of critical skills towards the Biden administration, and he'll lose that shine. But if Trump more likely indicates that he's going to run, then we'll just see Joe Biden once again not being Donald Trump to be his sterling asset.
So, Mark, how much of Joe Biden's agenda is his own? And how much is simply distinguishing himself from Donald Trump at all costs?
Tim, I've got to say that in terms of Joe Biden's agenda, I would say he does not have an agenda himself. I think it's more a case that Joe Biden was bargained and horse traded his way into a position, not through him, but through the sheer unlikability, the unelectability of those people who were racing against him in the primaries. They were so unpopular. I mean, look at his vice president, Kamala Harris. She had to drop out so early in the race because nobody liked her. But this was the problem with so many progressive candidates. I mean, we've seen it in the New Jersey and the Virginia gubernatorial primaries. People don't want the progressive candidates. So essentially, they revert back to, let's elect the old white guy. We don't want the progressives, the hard left people. And that we've seen that in practice, in reality, we've seen that. So when we say how much of Biden's agenda, I don't think there's so much of Biden's agenda. I think he was the right person compared to the far left extremists that were surrounding him. I don't think he really has an agenda as such. He has, let's continue the Obama administration for another 4 years. One of Obama's first promises, he was going to shut down Guantanamo Bay. Do you remember that?
Yes.
For sure, 100%.
All those decades ago.
Within the first
100%.
100 days.
Right.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, apparently, Joe Biden now has a plan for that.
Yeah,
it's very
I know.
Warren. The border is a disaster. The economic situation is a disaster. He's going to have to revert to what Donald Trump did at some point. Otherwise, it's just a downward spiral for his presidency.
Why do you say that the economy is a disaster?
Well, look at the recent figures, Tim. We have inflation. We have cost increases, 5%, I believe. At time of recording, it's 5% cost increase on most things. We've seen him shut down the Keystone XL pipeline, which has now, the Canadian company that was backing that has now pulled out. I believe it's JS Energy. They've now pulled out because Joe Biden in his first 100 days, decided that, well, we're not going to renew the permits for this. So they've pulled out. Now, just remember, only in May 7th, we had the Colonial Pipeline shut down. So, and gas prices went through the roof. Shortages across the board. These decisions are detrimental to everything that's happening. I'm smiling here. You might notice, and that's not because I'm expressing Schadenfreude, but it's because I'm aghast at the poor quality decisions that are happening from the Biden administration.
Okay, Lisa, when does the Trump statute of limitations run out? And that's a two-part question. When does Biden's ability to blame Trump for every problem, as with the border, run out? And when does his ability to take credit for what Trump did, as with vaccines and the economy, expire?
Ding, 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 ding. Time's up. I mean, we're 5 months in, or in Joe Biden speak, we're 15 months in.
5.5 hours.
So
whatever.
You would think that time's up on blaming the last guy in power, but I suppose it has a lot to do with what is getting done currently. So that people have something to look forward to.
Obama took the full 8 years to blame Bush for everything, right? Did he ever stop?
I think on Trump's inaugural day that Obama didn't actually blame Bush for anything.
We're not even in 8 months yet for Biden. He's got a long way to go for blaming the other guy, right?
When Nikita Khrushchev took over from Stalin, there's a story that the administration, they said, well, there's a desk with some notes in it that you should read. And so Khrushchev, he got there and he read the opening note, and it said, in here are 2 letters. If you get into trouble, open the first letter. The second time you get into trouble, open the second letter, and we'll have the solutions for you. So anyway, a few years go by, and Khrushchev, he gets into a lot of trouble. And so he opens the first letter, and Stalin had written to him, he says, blame it all on me. And so he goes, all right. And so he blamed it all on Stalin, and everything went very well for him. And then a little while later, he got into trouble again. And so he thought, well, and now it's time to use the second letter. So he pulled it out of the drawer, and Stalin had written, write 2 letters.
Pass the buck.
I'm just going to finish my point. I think the best way to stop focusing on the last guy is to get something done. And that seems to be the sticking point here. I mean, where are all the reforms that Biden has promised? Where's the peace? Where's the unity? Where's the healing? Where are the people singing Kumbaya? When people are waiting in gas lines, paying more at the pumps, more at the grocery store, and there's more crime in their neighborhood, well, those are real things that affect Americans. And these are things that they have traditionally voted on. So I don't think the Biden administration is going to have more. I think they're going to have more than just, I'm not Trump by the midterms.
Lisa, let me ask you a question, sort of going forward to 2022 and 24. Will the left, do you think, ever pay a price for what I called in an LN article, America's Summer of Shame in 2020, when they stood by and did nothing as America burned?
Tim, as you really look at it, Portland is still burning.
Yeah.
And I don't think we will be revisiting last summer because, after all, the party that ignored it is holding the reins of power. But I do think there's a lingering concern about a spike in crime. The Tony community of Buckhead in Atlanta.
Great word, Tony.
Yeah, they're looking into getting their own police force. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that happening. People in gated communities aren't the one worrying about the crime as much, as the folks in the urban communities. And so I think all this police reform business and defund the police is really going to hurt the poor people in the urban areas.
That's
And-
100% certain. The worst affected people are going to get it the worst. It's true with inflation. It's true across the board with so many of the negative consequences of the policy choices of this administration. It's a cruel irony. It's literally the exact opposite of what they portray. No police doesn't hurt rich people in rich neighborhoods. They'll figure it out. It hurts the poorest of people who have nowhere to turn, when their security's threatened.
Who are we? We are Americans that believe in liberty. We are a project of the nonprofit One Generation Away. We are patriots who apply the founding principles to the issues of today.
And they keep moving the goalposts on us.
We are educators and commentators who love America and the Constitution. Who are we? We are Liberty Nation.